Her TED Talk has had more than 40 million views, and she joins us now from San Francisco. Great to talk to you, Dr. Cuddy. Your research was trying to, teach women or train women to stretch out or stretch up or just assume a different pose before class.
Yes, I would say I'm trying to untrain them to not do that. When you think about little girls, they're running around with their arms up in the air and taking up space and not being afraid to show their strength. It's not till they get to about middle school that they start to collapse and make themselves small and behave in a way that's sort of apologetic. So this is something that they're learning. It's not an innate gender difference that, women learn to take up less space than men through the images and the messages that we share with them.
Is manspreading then actually quite a good thing? Does it get you the power that it bestows on you when you sit down?
Oh, no, I mean, people love using that example. Manspreading is certainly an example of a powerful posture, but not one that you want to use in front of other people. I mean, you keep in mind that when you're in an interaction, you're going for conveying confidence, but also showing that you're engaged and you're interested in being there. And, manspreading does not really signal that. I think, my thoughts about what we can do for women is to start earlier. I mean, to start with our daughters. By age 5, kids are learning the stereotype that expansiveness is associated with male and contractiveness is associated with female. And that stereotype gets stronger. So I think what we need to be doing is teaching our daughters to take up their fair share of space, to share their ideas, to show their strength, and to do so in a way that is unapologetic. So that's how you get women to speak up in the boardroom. You encourage the daughters to do that too.
That actually filters through then, does it, into the workplace? You see that?
Yeah, absolutely. When people say to me, how do I get women to speak up in the boardroom, I can't help but say, don't ever tell your daughters to stop speaking up. I feel like we need to actually start earlier. Let's start younger. It's not that they're born thinking that they shouldn't speak up. It's that somehow we send them images of, princesses with their elbows pinned against their sides, looking tiny, and saying things like, sit like a lady, and, don't be bossy. And they get the idea that they aren't entitled to the same amount of space physically or just sort of generally in the world. So, speaking up in a meeting is about taking up time. It's about sharing ideas. It's about, having expansive thoughts and creativity and connecting in an expansive way.
And a lot of your work looks at the kind of judgments that we make about leaders, whether it's presidential candidates, whether it's prime ministers. I think we have a clip we can show you of our own prime minister and power. How would you interpret that?
Yeah. Oh, I think that she seems a combination of confident and open in that clip. I certainly don't see any uneasiness there. She seems relaxed and she seems like she's projecting a combination to me of both confidence and openness, which is really what you want. So that's how that begins, at least.
Memorably, Hillary Clinton complained of Donald Trump looming over her. She writes about it in her book. When she's in those presidential debates. If you are a woman in that position, okay, a few of us will be, but a woman who feels loomed over by a bigger, stronger man, how do you, what is your social interaction then?
Yeah, I thought she handled it actually incredibly well, and that's not a new idea. Taking up space is one thing. Occupying other people's space is a very sort of dominant alpha move. It goes back to centuries, but Lyndon Johnson used to do this, where he would hover over people. They called it the Johnson treatment, and it intimidated people. I think that when you're in that position, whether you're a man or a woman, and someone is using incredibly dominant behavior and taking up your space, what you need to do is stand your ground, is to hold your own. You don't back off, and you also don't try to out-alpha the other person. When you try to out-alpha, you get a sort of a spiral of really dominant behavior. And when you back off, of course, it suggests that the other person is sort of winning. So I think you really just need to stand still and to not be intimidated by it.
And I guess, Dr. Cuddy, your work focuses on how to change the physical to help the content. You could approach it the other way and say, why can't we just be better at hearing the content and ignoring the physical?
Well, I mean, I would say content is the words that you use. Certainly, I mean, that's not difficult to change. That's something that we can do quite easily. When I think about content, I'm thinking more about changing the way we think by saying, I'm not going to think that way anymore. And that does not work very well, because when we're feeling stressed out, when we're feeling challenged and pressured, and we tell ourselves, actually, everything's fine and I'm okay, we're not very good at that. Now we feel like we're lying to ourselves. What we're good at doing, though, is changing our body language to match how we want to feel, right? So if we adopt more powerful posture, it does lead us to feel more powerful and more assertive and confident when we go into these challenging situations. That is something that we can do that's free, and that can incrementally change the way we behave and change the way we interact, and ultimately affect our outcomes, again, over time as we nudge ourselves forward.
Amy Cuddy, thanks very much indeed. Thanks for joining us this evening. And Amy is part of the BBC's 100 Women campaign.